So welcome to another edition of the Legal Authority Podcast. My name is Jay Rothman, my co-host.
Judy Goldberg.
Yes, and we are bringing you another show today with an amazing guest. Her name is Diane Sullivan. She is a family attorney in Mesa, Arizona, and she does a great job. She's built a really successful firm, and I know her pretty well, and I think she's going to have a great perspective for those that are listening on the things to do and the things not to do when you're building your firm. And if you can emulate what Diane's done, you'll be successful, no doubt. So what do you say, Judy? Let's get started?
Yes, let's go.
All right, roll it.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Legal Authority Podcast, presented by TheLegalAuthority.com. Here are your hosts, Jay Rothman and Judith Goldberg.
Hey, Judy Goldberg and Jay Rothman back with another episode of the Legal Authority Podcast. And it's been great. We have an awesome guest again today, too. I'm super excited about this.
Oh, Diane is fabulous.
Yep.
Fabulous.
Diane Sullivan from Sullivan Law. She works in Arizona, specifically, I believe, the Mesa market, and, of course, some surrounding towns. So she's got a very unique perspective because she has built a really successful family law practice, and I think she's done some really cool stuff. And for the lawyers that are listening that are thinking about either going out on their own or you're already out on your own and you're building your successful law practice, Diane's got some really good perspective. And I know, Judy, you and her are going to be able to really get into it because you obviously have done it as well. And again, you know, on this podcast, the whole point is to really give you good, solid value and give you good perspectives and help you really be successful building your law practice, because we bring guests on that have done it, right? And so hopefully you like and subscribe so that you can always be notified when we have a new episode. You can simply do that at the legalauthority.com/podcast. And we're also available wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, the Apple Podcast Store, and, of course, Google Podcasts. So without any further ado, let's go to our guest of honor, Diane Sullivan. Diane, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you all doing?
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I know how busy you are because we work with you.
That was my pleasure.
You're next to impossible to get a hold of, and we really appreciate you taking the time to spend some time with us and our listeners today. And you are the perfect person to bring on the show and help young lawyers and lawyers that are, you know, starting to build their own practices, really just get a good perspective from you. And let's just dive right in. Tell us a little bit about your background, your firm, what made you decide that you wanted to practice law, you know, those sort of things.
Well, I have always wanted to be an attorney, probably from, you know, when I was a small child, and I would constantly argue with my parents. And my mother, I remember her telling me, "You better grow up and be a lawyer, Diane." That was always what she said. So I never really considered doing anything else.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so she's proud, obviously. But I graduated law school very young just because I happened to be born very late in the year. Mm-hmm. So I was an attorney with my license. I think I was 23.
Wow.
My first job, I worked at the prosecutor's office. Wasn't the way I thought I was going to go, but I did an internship at the prosecutor's office when I was in law school, and I always wanted to have a job of service, mm-hmm. and that just really fit the bill, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed working with people, with victims. I love the trial work, but it just wasn't the government environment wasn't the right environment for me. Mm-hmm. It was very confining. So that was when I decided to leave, and I was still really young, 26. Started
awesome.
My own law firm when I was 26, and I found really good mentors.
Were you nervous going out on your own?
No, well, sort of. I was a little high strung when I was younger, and you know, if I was in a situation I didn't like, I would just be like, all right, well, fine. I'm just going to leave and just go and do this. And I just really went in blind and headstrong. I don't really recommend that, but right. It worked at the time.
Were you doing criminal law when you first started? Was that your practice?
Yeah, I only did criminal, and I didn't start to do family until I got divorced myself.
Okay.
And I remember thinking, well, A, I could do this, mm-hmm. and B, I think it would come from a really empathetic place. Mm-hmm. Because I had been there, and I didn't get that from my attorney. She was fine, but I felt like I was just another number there, and I wanted to really create something different.
So let me ask you this. So when you switched from criminal law to family law, what were your thoughts about, okay, so I'm a good lawyer, I can learn anything, I can practice anything, but switching your practice to family law, what did you do to start to get new clients? Because of course you were known for the criminal side of it, and then that's a big switch. Like, they're pretty unrelated.
Yeah, well, I asked a lot of questions. Like I said, I had a lot of good mentors who were really very charitable to take me under their wing, and I took all of their advice. And that was my biggest concern. I'm like, how do I get clients?
Mm-hmm.
Part of what really helped me is that most attorneys that practice family law only practice family law.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to do anything else. So the fact that I also knew how to do criminal, you would be surprised how often those two areas overlap.
Okay.
So I would get a lot of referrals when someone had a client perhaps come in who needed a family attorney, but that family attorney needed to have criminal experience.
Right, like a
Maybe there was some
TRO or
criminal
DV,
proceedings.
right.
Yeah, domestic violence. Maybe there was an ancillary criminal proceeding, such as abuse against a child pending. So that helped. And one thing I remember an attorney mentor told me was that branding was really important. Like, first, you need to have a good website with good, search engine optimization, and make yourself a brand.
Right.
Spend the money to get yourself a nice logo. And
your website's awesome.
Apply it. Oh, thank you. Yes. Yep. Yes. And my website works great. That definitely helps drive in traffic. It's very successful. But the branding should apply across all the platforms. You have a business card, it's the same. You have an email, it's the same. It matches the website. Everything should be the same.
Yep.
So that definitely helped and helped create that sort of brand that people would know me by. And I also wanted to make sure it reflected myself personally. I didn't want it to look like a lawyer's brand. We're all stuffy and no fun. And I wanted it to kind of reflect how my practice is a little bit different.
And just just for full disclosure.
No, go ahead.
Digital Horsepower, my company, we do work with Diane. So, I make little tongue-in-cheek comments about our website because we built it, so we're very proud of it. We actually show it off to a lot of new prospective clients. We're like, well, here's a site that we just pushed live a few months ago, and everybody likes it. So,
and I thought it looked good before, but definitely the tweaks that were added definitely reflected, I think, my personality, where just because I'm a woman and I'm a sole practitioner and I'm an attorney, it's like I'm a person first. I'm a mom first. I'm a woman first, and lawyer and all that other stuff. I mean, that kind of comes second, and that's what I try to give my clients when they come in. It's a holistic approach. Every client that comes in is a person. They are not just a client. They are not just somebody going through a divorce. It's like they need your help, and I have a lot of help to offer outside of just I can put my law hat on and get you through this divorce. I mean, I make my clients go to yoga and take vacations and get them into therapy. And, because when they're done, I want to make sure that they are in better shape than when I got them in the beginning.
Yep. No, that's a great way to look at it.
You exude that dynamic, successful entrepreneur. It's fabulous, Diane. Just fabulous.
Thank you.
And you really understand that the marketing, the branding, and working with Jay. I had a fabulous experience with Jay, and some bad experiences with other agencies.
Yeah, haven't we all?
Yeah.
Similar to you, Diane. Like, you and I got connected because you were working with somebody else that just wasn't moving the needle, and we showed you what we would do, and you agreed that it was a good idea. And I mean, I remember, 5 or 6 weeks after we pushed your site live, you had already gotten a couple clients from it. And that's not always normal, but we really try to engineer some quick wins for every client, just because it's not inexpensive by any stretch to do this when you do it the right way. But if we're able to engineer some quick wins for you, then it doesn't hurt so much, right? When that bill comes due every month. And
that's why you guys are getting to build the second website.
Yeah, that's right. We're building a second website for you for something that's different. She's doing a mediation practice as well, and she wanted a separate website for that, so we're doing that. And of course, Judy does mediation down here in Florida. Her website's judithgoldberg.com if anybody's interested in seeing it. And that's a beautiful website. It says Florida all over it, like just the images and stuff. It's cool. But yeah, so we love working with you. I know Stephen always enjoys talking to you and Jen, and I'm very glad about that. So, but we did want to bring you on here just because you're one of our clients, but because you're one of our clients, we really have gotten to know you and your team over the last few months, and it's been a really good relationship. And I just knew that you'd have a really good perspective for the attorneys that are listening, and to be able to really help them with some thoughts, some ideas, maybe some inspiration. And you're a single mom, right? And I'm sure there's plenty of single moms that are attorneys that are listening, that are thinking about making the jump to their own firm, or have and just need some guidance and some inspiration. So who better to bring on, right? So
and my team definitely is the secret to my success. That's one thing I cannot stress enough, is you're nothing without your team. Find a good team, make sure they are appreciated. I mean, my team would walk through fire for me. And
Jen and Heather are great.
Yeah, they really are. And I just treat them how I would treat anybody, but they've never been treated this way by any employer they've ever had.
Right.
So yeah, they're with me till I retire. I know it.
Yeah, no, they're terrific. They're terrific. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, that has to speak to your success, that you've worked on forming the team. You've had the experience, the exuberance. Really, I can sense it. There's something very special about women in the practice of law. I think it's a fabulous background, fabulous education, and those that continue and become mothers. Have a private life and can incorporate a successful business such as law is commendable. I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to the attorneys listening? What could they do? What did you do to propel your firm forward?
Well, I mean, if you're thinking, about going out on your own, I mean, it doesn't necessarily be that you have to work with a business coach, but have a business plan, have a good nest egg, have a plan for what kind of client you want, and gear your marketing towards that kind of client. Like I said, mentors are, lawyers are, people, we get a bad rap, lawyers. Yep. And the entire time I've been in practice, if there was ever, whether it was an issue, a new practice area, I would just, literally ask around my friends and say, who is the best at this, whatever it was I needed to know about. Mm-hmm. And I would get a name. And then I would call that person and just say, hi, I got your name from so-and-so, and I have questions about this. Can I take you out to lunch? No one ever told me no. And I got invaluable advice from those lawyers that just, I would just, for the price of a lunch.
Yep. And you build your network that way too, right? You build
that
your,
as well.
Your
I would give them referrals in their area, and I have gotten referrals that way, and worth its weight in gold. But, coming with that is as attorneys, we tend to be a little full of ourselves, even if we're unsure on an issue. But I've never been that way. I've always been very humble and grateful that I even have this job. And if I don't know about something, I have no problem admitting that. Sure. I go, let me find the smartest person in the room and go be their friend.
Cool. Let me ask you this, just switching gears a little bit. If you could look back on, since you started your firm, were there any pitfalls? Maybe a better way to describe that. Were there any things that you did in terms of decision on your direction or marketing or whatever that you wish you could do over, that might be able to save an attorney listening, some grief and some heartache?
It probably would be my marketing. I can't tell you how much money I've thrown away on bad marketing. As lawyers, we just don't know. How to even find these people, or what, we don't even know what to ask for. We don't know what SEO is. Right. We just want to write somebody a check and have them do it, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
As long as they're doing it.
Write somebody the check.
Yeah. You got to, in the way we look at it, when we are working with new clients, is we like to educate. Like, you know more about SEO now than you did 3 or 4 months ago. Facts. You don't need to know how to do it, but you need to understand the fundamentals.
Right.
Because you need to understand enough to have your finger on the trigger, but to have somebody that really knows what they're doing, executing the work, and then you understand what they're doing, right? And I think
no one else has done that besides you guys. Just so you know, I've been practicing 23 years, and like you said, I know more now than anyone has ever taught me.
Yep. An educated client for us is the best client, because then we can spend our time talking about strategy, not explaining why we wrote this piece of content the way we did, and so on and so forth. Yep. And Judy has a perspective, I think, on that too, right? She, well, I'll let you describe it.
Well, my experience for so many years was trusting. Again, we don't know who to pick. We don't know even the questions, and it's not until you try it out. What happens is, for me, I just wanted to practice law. Had to go to court. Most days I was in court. I didn't have time for this. But there came a day, all of a sudden, I finished a number of trials, sat down in my office and listened, and I said, what's going on? Phone's not ringing. Oh, my God. You lose touch because we're busy. We're busy practicing law.
Yep.
And I received a call. My office staff, Sarah, who was with me 24 years, support staff, fabulous. She received a call from Jay. She comes to my office and said, this call I think you should take. Well, I did. And tried it out, but I was terrified. How could I give up the company that was that did my website? What would happen? I didn't even know what would happen.
Well, I'll tell you why you did it. Because my call to her, Diane, wasn't to sell her. I was in Buffalo at the time where I grew up, and she was in Connecticut, and she was running pay-per-click ads. And in Buffalo, I saw her pay-per-click ad. I mean, that's a huge problem. Like, you waste your whole budget in a day when you do that, because somebody in Buffalo is not going to hire a divorce attorney in Connecticut.
Right.
I mean, I guess it could happen, but you would never run ads for that. So my whole point was to just call her and just say, hey, look, let me show you how to change the settings so that you don't burn your budget. And so Sarah got Judy on the phone, and I showed her how to do it. She fixed it, and then she asked me, hey, run some ads for me, and let's see what it can do. And I'm just happy to help her. And we did, and it worked. And then, a couple of years later, she called me up and said, listen, you need to stop whatever you're doing and help me, because this guy's working on my website, and he's not moving the needle. And at the time, I was working with the NFL on a couple of projects, and so I just carved out the time and showed her what I would do, and the rest is history. Here we are 15 years later. So.
Well, you skipped over a lot of things, but I just want to say that, I kind of put my toe in dealing with this. So I was so afraid of giving up that website. And we just did a couple $100.
Yep.
Right? A little SEO work. And within 36 hours, there was an exponential change in the volume of calls. But it was also very interesting over time. And then, of course, I changed. And then Jay took over all the digital marketing. I found that even the level that the client changed. Level of cases changed. And I was able to sit back and really choose how many cases I was going to take.
And which ones you were going to take.
Yeah. So, it was so significant, the change for me. And it's been almost, 15, 20 years we worked together. And then I found that I trusted him so that, and he had so much experience in marketing. Then I started to discuss how can I, do more, whether it was writing a book, do different branding. So it was, fabulous. And I see you have a similar experience with Jay.
What else have you done to generate cases that has been successful? Correct. And I mean, obviously you have networking and so forth. But have you done other things that have been successful to bring in cases? Not even in the digital world, just in general.
Touched on networking, but going a little bit beyond that, and it's obviously good to do as an attorney, and I do it just because my heart calls me to do it. But things like volunteer work with different organizations. I mean, I've always believed that lawyers should pay it forward. I mean, we are blessed to make a very good living. There are people that can't always afford our services, so I've always paid it forward out in the community doing volunteer work. But then you're amazed of where referrals come from. It's not even the people that you're talking to. It's sometimes the director of the organization. Hey, you were in here doing volunteer work last month and my sister needs a divorce, kind of thing. So it's just really, I enjoy being sort of the go-to attorney in my community. And I tell people all the time, you need an attorney, just call me. It doesn't matter that this is not what I do. Right. It's really important to me that I get you in touch with someone either that I know or that I respect or that just I know is going to do a good job for you.
Yep. And that's
We've
awesome.
all heard of bad lawyers. And
Yep.
I hate hearing those stories.
Yep. No, I get it. I think somebody wrote a book, 1001 Bad Lawyer Jokes or something, right? So.
I have it.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into it at all. So as we wrap up, because I know you're really busy, and again, I really appreciate you coming on and just providing great perspective for the lawyers that are listening. What advice would you give the attorneys that are listening, whether they're thinking about hanging out their shingle or they have and now they're just trying to build their firm? If you literally could coach them for the next couple of minutes, what would that look like?
I think it's really important that you find what's different about you and how you can set yourself aside from other lawyers in your field. For me, it was my ancillary background of criminal. It was my behavioral health background. It was, that I just interact different with people. And when I get them into my office, like I talked about earlier, it's a holistic approach. We're not taught in law school how to communicate or how to help people in that way. And that really, really sets me apart from anybody else in family. So find what it is different that you could bring to the table. What's going to set you apart? Why should they hire you as opposed to the firm down the hall from you?
That's a great point.
And if you do that and do it right out of the gate, because I didn't figure this out till about 10 years in, you'll be a success right out of the gate.
That's awesome. Diane, anything you'd like to add before you get on with the rest of your day?
Just, don't forget where you came from, value your staff, value your clients, and never get where you're so big for your britches that you stop caring about your clients, because that's honestly the day you should stop practicing.
Good point. All right. Well, Diane Sullivan from Sullivan Law in Arizona. If you want to reach out to Diane, her website address is sullivanlawaz.com. And you certainly could contact her that way. You've been an amazing guest. I really appreciate your perspective.
Thank you both so much for spending part of your morning with me.
Yeah, hey, thank you. We appreciate it. For anybody listening, if you want to learn a little bit more about some of the successes that we've had for Diane and some of our other clients, it all starts with us doing an audit, right? We have to show you what's going on with your website, how Google sees it, what your competition's like. Just go to thelegalauthority.com/podcast. You just answer a couple of questions there. We'll do the audit for you. It's no charge. If you want us to ask a question or have a question addressed by one of our guests in a future show, same thing. You'll be able to ask it right there. And, if you want to talk to Judy or myself, all at the same place, right? thelegalauthority.com/podcast. Diane, you're awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Much success to you and your firm. And big thanks to Jennifer and to Heather, your staff, for helping us coordinate this. And
they're the best.
Yep, you're awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
All right. If you want
Thank you, Judy.
Yep. Future episodes of our podcast are available anywhere you get your podcast, the Apple Podcast Store, of course, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and we have those all linked right from the legalauthority.com/podcast. Make sure you subscribe so that you're notified of future episodes. And I have a feeling that this won't be the last time we hear from you and your team, Diane. So
look forward to it.
All right. Awesome. Everybody, have a great day. Carry on with a successful week. And we will talk to you soon on the next time.
Thank you for listening to the Legal Authority Podcast. As always, you can hear us wherever you get your podcasts. Please also make sure that you subscribe so that you're notified for each new episode. If you have a question that you'd like answered on the show, or to talk directly to Judy Goldberg, just go to thelegalauthority.com/podcast. Until next time.